Hello guys, here's Michael again. It is finally to talk about our last two signals. Until now we are talking about change value changed, and rapid. And now it is time to talk about two new signals, which are kind of event signal, because you can base it of these two signals. You can do much more to your input or to your output when it is about interfacing when the user interface with your application. So let's see what the manual says. The manual says, let's say what the input says. Input signal is a function which return this time a GINT. You see, takes 3 parameters and not 2. The first one is our spin button, and then we have the G pointer new value and the G pointer user data, and says the input signal can be used to influence the conversion of the user input into a double value. The signal handler is expected to use the GTK entry getText to retry the text of the entry and set a new value to the new value. Okay? To default conversion, use G string to double. Okay? That being said, there are 3 parameters and returns true for successful conversion, false if the input was not handled, and so on. Okay, now let's see. Let us see the last program, which we had it. Before we proceed, we are catching the the value change the wrap. This is the change it value where we catch it, because the increment value, the step increment value was changed from 1 to 7. The way how we said here, GABS set adjustment step increment, we change it from 1 to 7. So basically the signal was catched, and then the next catch signal will be when we change the values of the spin button. These values are catched and printed. We were doing this by catching the value changes signal right here, and of course the rapid signal. Once that we said that the spin button wraps, so we set it to true, then our spin button, after you reach 100, you still can increment your spin button, and by doing this it will basically jump from 100 to 0, and then this signal will be catched. Watch, plus, and now the spin button value was changed to 0, like here, and the spin button wrap was detected. And the same thing happens if you go back. Now we are to 0, and then if I hit the minus button, now you see the value changed to 100 and the spin button wrap was detected. Okay, so that being said, this is what we did so far. I will go into comment these things because we don't need them now. We are not going to use them. We are going to use only a new signal, and this new signal, as you can see, as you already know, it is called input. So we are going to use it and the spin button, and we are going also to create a function which is call it input, and this function we are going to create it. So as you can see, it says it has to be a GINT, so we are going to do the same thing. GINT input callback, and of course we are going to create our spin button parameter. Now watch. The function suggests that you use G string tool. Okay, so are we going to do the same thing? This means we are going to use the GTK entry get text now, the way it was suggested. GTK entry, not GTK entry get text. And of course we are going to cast our spin button to GTK entry. Spin button. Now that we save the text which we are typing in here, then we can create a variable ret, and we are going to call, as they suggested here, the G string to double, and we are going to say that this function takes two parameters, which is a start and an end point. I'm not going to use the end point because we are going to use the whole text, so this means we are not going to point to some part of the text, we are going to use the whole text. That's why I'm passing here null. And then we are going to say gprint let's say the detected input was changed, okay, from, let's say, our text to our double. See what happens, okay? So this means our text and our double, which is our ret, and of course this is the new value now. So this means we are going to set the value to the new value, which is ret now, and now we can return true because we are done here. Now let's see what happens. I'm going to type something. You see, every time when you do something, it's moving, an input, it is detected. So this is the part where you need to understand when you are working with those update policy, because it can be that you catch this signal, and based on this signal which you catch it, you have to be sure if every time when a user move this window should be this signal catched, and if it is catched before, then make sure that your program behaves the way how you're expecting, so not think about something different. Okay, now I'm going to pass a number like 5, and I will hit enter, and says the input was changed from file to 1 2 3 4 5 6, and of course the thing changed all the time. You see, we have now 7, and now when I move the window, goes back to 0, and so on. Okay, so basically this is what this does. You know, when you type a text here and you hit enter, it will try to convert it to something. Of course, because the text is not a double, it will return 0, and by having 0, basically the new value is 0. Okay, so that being said, this is how the input signal works. And now we can call the last signal, which is the output signal. Let's see what the manual says about the output signal, and says it is a function, it's a Boolean function which returns true or false. You know, takes two parameters. The first one is the spin button, the second is a user data pointer, and says the output signal can be used to change the formatting of the value that is displayed in the spin button's entry. And here provided us an example, so I will go through this example. I make some changes because we don't need all these kind of things here. You will see in a moment why. But I'm going to copy this time the way it is, and then we are going to make those changes the way how I think it is needed. Okay, so anyway, the G pointer data, I'm going to drop it. Now we let the function the way it is, and we are going to catch this signal output here. Let me comment this part. Let me change this to output, and of course let us use the callback output function to be used once that's the outputs. So what else exactly does here before we speak? Watch. If you increase or decrease a number, you see those numbers. We have no decimal numbers here this time. It's not important anyway if we have or not, but watch what happens if you go below 10. You see 0.6. if I type now 7 and hit enter, you see you have 0.7. so basically this is a way how you can format the output. This means what happens after you hit enter when you type something. This is the input, the 7 which one I'm typing here, and if I hit enter, this is the output. The same thing happens here. The input is when I hit the plus button, and the output is when the change takes place. So basically when I hit now plus, it goes not to 8 but to 0.8 or 0.14. Based of, okay, this is based of the step increment value which we set it here. Okay, now let's see what kind of new changes we can make. I said that we let the function the way it was created. Let's see. It says here it was a GTK adjustment pointer created, a text pointer was declared, and also a value int, and then adjustment was took from this spin button through GtkSpinButton get adjustment. Once that is adjustment, it is here. Then the GTK adjustment get value was called, where you can see here it was cast to int, so that represent the integer value here. And once that the value was gotten, then it was created a new text, where as you can see it was put this 02D here, and then after that was the entry set the way you created and not the way default. So basically it is a little bit complicated, but it is somehow easy. Now of course we are not going to use something like this. We are going to create something much more easier. So this means I'm going to remove this part here, and I'm going to say something like int red, and then we are going to get the value as int. So just to create an adjustment and then to later get, you see here they create an adjustment, and then they set this adjustment from the GtkSpinButton, and then they get GTK adjustment get value just to get the value. So much work. No, we are not going to do that. We are going to take the short way, which is GtkSpinButton get value as int. You remember this function? We are talking about this function, and then we are going to use our spin button. Let me change its name here, and now we have the same thing, which means we have this value, and because we have this value we can create our next gchar text pointer. The way how they use it here was created, and then it was basically used for this function. So we are going to do the same thing because we have the value now. Okay, so now that we have the value, we can basically set this text to what GTK entry set text was, isn't it? Yes. and then of course GTK entry, and we are going to pass our spin button here, and of course the second will be our text which we were creating. After we create this, we are going of course to free this text. Okay, so that being said, we have here now 1, 2, 3, 4 lines, and here was a lot of code which does basically the same thing. I'm going to change this name too. I'm going to remove the static also, and now I'm going to pass it here, and now watch, I will compile it and run it, and works fine. 2, it works. 0, 2, 8, it works fine. Works the same like worked with the provided example. This is not a bad thing. It is just here to help you to understand what exactly happens here. It's not that they use here a long code because it has to be like that. No, it is that you understand how the program flows work. So this means it needs its adjustment. Once that you have it, then you get the value which is inside that adjustment. Once that you have that value, you can pass it here through string duplicate printf function and set a new text. And once that you have this text, you set the entry with the GTK entry set text, and later you free it. So basically this code here, which is long, it is just an explanation of what exactly happens and how exactly is the program flow of this function here. So basically we are only reducing this code to only 4 lines, so that you see that we can work with it even if we are not going to ask for that adjustment. We don't need it, because if we need only the value, only the adjustment value, which is the spin button value, we can get it directly through GtkSpinButton get value as integer. Once that we have this value, which we get it from our spin button, we save it on our rep, and then we can work with it, and later we can set the text, and we are good to go. Okay, so that being said, I think we covered everything which we need to know about spin button. We covered everything which we need to know about adjustments and so on. So basically we know that we need an adjustment to work with spin buttons. We also we can also work with range, GTK range too. We saw that we can create a button by calling GTK spin button new with range, I think was called. Let's go a little bit back up here. GTK, yes, GTK spin button new with range. So we could create it with a range. What this range is, this is a new tutorial for us to work with GTK range, because they are those scales which and scroll. Watch, you see the GTK range has 2 subclasses, the GTK scale and the GTK scroll bar. This is our next program, our next tutorial, and our next videos which we are going to talk about it, because it is very important for you to know that if you run this program, basically you let the user to decide if he want to pass a value here, or if the user wants to update to that value itself. But with other things like GTK scale, this means maybe you don't want to let the user to choose a value. You want to put user only to choose the value by dragging. This is a scale here, you see the volume control user scale. So basically this scale is what does, so you let the user to set this scale from value to another one by moving this point and scale, if I can call it like that. Okay, so that being said, I think we covered everything. If I missed something, or if I misunderstand something, or I said wrong, please leave a comment and we can talk about it. And like I said, we covered everything about GtkSpinButton and its adjustment. Okay guys, so again, thank you for watching. If you like it, please subscribe, share with your friends and neighbors, and until next time, see you guys.